the day before the new moon of July, and it's just 2 weeks before the day when our community will be entering the Vasa. Today we have got an extremely large Sangha present comparatively. We've got, let me see if I can count on my fingers. How many Bhikkhunis do we have?
I think we have
seven Bhikkhunis?
One more coming in a couple weeks.
And seven Bhikkhunis we have, one more Bhikkhuni coming in a couple of weeks.
And two seminaries.
2 seminaries we have, and one more seminary also. We have one seminary here and another one coming back soon. So it's a very rich and meaningful time for us. During this interval between Vesak and the entering into the Vasa, in response to your questions and your interests, I have been undertaking a bit about the factors of awakening. And today I want to focus on the awakening factor of energy, or Viriya. Viriya is a term that occurs in many different of the Buddhist lists as a factor of awakening, as a faculty, as a power, as being within the description of right effort that's part of the Eightfold Noble Path. For the sake of simplicity, what I wanted to do today was talk about energy in the context of the 4 padhanas, or the 4 right efforts, which is part of samavayama, or the right effort in the Noble Eightfold Path. And then, after you get that fixed in your mind, I want to encourage you to develop energy like your hair is on fire. So that's the brief outline of today's program. I'm going to share the screen of the Padhāna-sutta.
Daniel, there's a book there if you want one. What is the number?
It's number 4.13 in the numerical discourses. And if somebody knows the page number, they'll tell it to those of you who are using the book published by Wisdom Publications.
Page 401.
Page 401 in the book, if you have it. Okay, here we go. In Bhikkhu Sujato's translation, I'm not just in favor of Bhikkhu Sujato over all the other translators, but he very conveniently puts the Pali and English together on the same page. So that's why we're looking at this one. Mendicants, there are these 4 right efforts. So to be inclusive, instead of saying bhikkhus, he's saying mendicants. We know that the term bhikkhu, when the Buddha was talking, very often there were bhikkhus and bhikkhunis present in the space. And so we can think of this as being inclusive, and also inclusive to all the practitioners who might have attended a teaching and listened to the teaching of the Buddha. So there are 4 right efforts. They generate enthusiasm, try, make an effort, exert the mind, and strive so that bad, unskillful qualities don't arise. They generate enthusiasm. Try, make an effort, exert the mind, and strive so that are given up. Try, make an effort, exert the mind, and strive so that skillful qualities arise. Um, I have to stop share because my computer has become unresponsive. We need some ice. The computer gets too hot. They Chandan Janeti Vayamati Vir
You're muted still.
It's a very hot day here, and it may be that that's affecting, the computer or the interfaces. I'm not sure. So, but that's never good. Heat and computers.
Right.
This is Richard. Most computers will say they have a temperature tolerant range, and I noticed that I think they're outside. Maybe they don't have air conditioning.
They are outside, and they're also the distance from the server too. So,
but I know that today is one of the hottest days ever, and so they may have gone outside of that heat temperature range by being outside. But I don't know if they have air conditioning in the temple.
They don't.
So
they don't.
So maybe they think it's cooler out there.
Well, there are trees. There is some shade out there, but just the ambient temperature is just quite high. So.
Yeah.
Can anyone hear anything?
No, I can't.
It looks like the program is going on without us.
Does look that way.
I'm really sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yes. Like a small portable phone that you could put like
Okay. So no sound for the past 10 minutes, maybe?
Yes.
Now we have sound. And I'm going to watch the chat in case my sound goes away. You'll let me know again. I'm explaining this refrain, which is called Chittang Paganhati Padahati. Chandang Janeti is to arouse or cause to come into being the chanda, or the determination, a resolution. So I'm going to make a resolution. I'm going to remember to take my medicine every day at the same time, and to brush my teeth 3 times a day. That's my resolution. That's a Chandang Janeti. I made a good resolution. Then Vayamati means I have to nurture that resolution. I have to, as I said, step on the gas and feed that resolution with energy, with nutriment. Then I have to, if I'm really going to make it to the destination, I need even more than that. I need to Viriyang Arabati. The Viriya, which is called energy, is related to the English word for hero. Arabati, I need to initiate or arouse my inner hero. No, it's too much noise. And then Chittang Paganhati. Chitta is a word that's been very commonly misunderstood by Western philosophers. Recently, I was rereading the definition in the PTS Pali English Dictionary that was written approximately 100 years ago. And they have this strong idea that it's the subjective heart-mind aspect of the personality that is combining the emotional and the intellectual. And this idea of, like, if you do something with all my heart, that's the chitta. All of this in modern scholarship has been pretty much thrown out. Then I read the Pali English Dictionary by Margaret Cohn that was been developed over the past 10 years or so. That's more modern. And Dr. Cohn uses thoughts and consciousness. She doesn't even refer to mind. It's like in modern philosophy, the mind is too ambiguous of an idea to be a real definition. So the Chitan, so Paganhati means to lift up or to raise up or to take hold of something. So Chitan Paganhati means to get a hold of your thoughts. And then the last one, Chitan Padhāti, is to fix the thoughts. So the last two phrases are telling us that the domain here is actually about thoughts. So the right effort that is being described here is not about cleaning the house or driving the car or engaging in social activities. It's really focused on our inner work that we need to do. So we need to have discover in ourselves that we have the ability, we have the agency, we have the capacity, and we have the right to control our own thoughts. If unwanted thoughts come in, we have the right to say, no, thank you. I'm not going to entertain those unwanted thoughts. And if a wished for thought is not coming up spontaneously by itself, we have the ability to train the mind so that we can cause the thoughts that we want to come up. And then once a beneficial thought comes along, we have the ability to, in the last one, that Padhāti, it's Dhati is to hold or to fix something in place. So we have the ability to set the mind on an object of meditation, or to set the mind on an object that we want to set it on, and to have it become stabilized on that. So Chittang Paganhati Padhāti. That's the meaning of that. I'm going to try, if the computer doesn't hurt me again. Now, everything that I wanted to tell you about, all my notes have come back, but I don't need them anymore. I will mention that there's a wonderful scholarly book. You will feel very lucky if you could even get a hold of it. It's called the Dictionary of Pali Idioms. And the translation of that phrase, Chittang Chandang Janeti Vayamati Viriya is he makes a resolution, that's Chandang Janeti, and Vayamati, he says, strives. Viryam Arabati, he says, starts an endeavor. And I say, wake up the hero. Chitan Paganhati, he says, holds the mind up. And then Padhāti means fixes the mind on something. Again, I'm repeating what I started because this is very important. It would be worth it to memorize these. Very frequently, the founding teacher of Dhammadharini, Ayya will quiz the monastics about what are the four Padhānas, the four right efforts. We want the bad, unskillful qualities to not arise. We prevent them. And then we want the bad, unskillful qualities that have arisen to be given up. That's the second effort. And then the third and fourth are about the skillful qualities. We want the skillful qualities to arise, and the skillful qualities that have arisen to remain, to not be lost, to increase, to mature, and to be fulfilled by development. I'm going to pause here and ask for your questions or your comments about how you have a benefit in your own life and practice about using this formula about the 4 right efforts. Please put the hand up if you have a question. Okay, Richard.
This terminology is a little bit confusing in the sense that the 6th factor, samavayama, usually translated as right effort, but here we're seeing this other term translated as right effort. Bhikkhu Bodhi in his translation translates it as right striving. So in the sutta, right effort is described as dividing unwholesome thoughts from wholesome thoughts. So it seems to be like right effort is like the initial idea of understanding that some things are unwholesome and other things are wholesome. And then these 4 right strivings are the way you cultivate that. Anyway, that's just from just looking at this and seeing the difference in translations and stuff, you know, so you use Viriya, right? You're using your energy, right? And you start, okay, I don't want this unwholesome. I'm going to suppress that, right? I want this wholesome. I want that to come up, right? Or if I'm, you know, like that, or I'm keeping unwholesome from coming up, or I'm getting the wholesome to increase. You know what I mean? So it's like one is the idea. Okay, what am I supposed to be doing? All right, I'm dividing these concepts. I'm seeing, you know, okay, yeah, this isn't good. This is good over here, right? Kind of like, and then, okay, and then the actual Viriya, you know, effort, whatever you want to call it, right? The actual activity, you know, how, you know, suppressing some and keeping them from not arising and trying to keep some to arise and then keep them going, you know, like that. I don't know if that's correct, but
yeah.
That seems to be the gist of it.
In the long version of the Noble Eightfold Path, like in the Satcavibhanga Sutta, for example, it gives a very similar expanded definition of samavayama. And each one is the first one is like called samvara padhana. Each one is a padhana. So there's 4 padhanas under samavayama. So then the 4 kinds of striving, right effort, these are very close concepts, but it's really good to be balanced and not just focus on the negative and not just focus on the positive. Sometimes beginners are so aware of their negative states of mind, and they spend a lot of time trying to control or trying to work with or trying to find a way to cope with the negativities that they carry around with them. But then it's very balancing to notice sometimes the mind is positive, sometimes the thoughts are good, and to give an equal credit to the good thoughts as the credit we give to the bad thoughts. Even I think somehow in nature, bad things are like a danger that we have to take care of, and good things sometimes don't get noticed as much. So having that balance to notice in every person, there's both the good and the bad. And knowing what to do to be skillful. Again, that last part, that padahati, that fixing the mind. There's another way that I think is useful, and that's to think of steering. This is the car metaphor. So you turn the ignition, you stepped on the gas, the car pulls away. That's when you woke up your hero, and you got a great big car with a lot of strength, and that car pulls away. And then you have to steer the car. If you don't steer it, you're not being skillful. And having a good idea of what the destination is, so you keep going towards the destination, is part of good steering. So then even if you have to come to a detour, or even if you momentarily get off the track, you can get back on the track if you know which way the destination is. So that's another part of Padhāti.
Someone needs to be on mute. There's room noise.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to then take us to the second sutta. This one is number 8.74, again in the numerical discourses.
12:22.
Okay. This one is identical to another sutta in the same book, which is number 6.20, but this one's a little bit longer. I'm going to share the screen and read it off for you. At one time, the Buddha was staying at Nyatika in the brick house. There, the Buddha addressed the mendicants. And mendicants, when mindfulness of death is developed and cultivated, it's very fruitful and beneficial. It culminates in the deathless and ends with the deathless. How is mindfulness of death developed and cultivated to be very fruitful and beneficial, to culminate in the deathless and end with the deathless? As day passes by and night draws close, a mendicant reflects, I might die of many causes. A snake might bite me, or a scorpion or centipede might sting me, and if I died from that, it would be an obstacle to my progress. Or I might stumble off a cliff, or get food poisoning, or suffer a disturbance of bile, phlegm, or piercing winds. I might be attacked by humans or non-humans, and if I died from that, it would be an obstacle to my progress. A mendicant should reflect, are there any bad, unskillful qualities that I haven't given up, which might be an obstacle to my progress if I die tonight? The bad, unskillful qualities. Papaka means bad. Akusala means unskillful. Dhamma, in this case, dhammas, those are the qualities in the mind. Suppose that upon checking, a mendicant knows that there are such bad, unskillful qualities. Then, in order to give them up, they should apply intense enthusiasm. That's adimatto. We have a friend whose name is Adimutta, which is a strong, it's boundless, really. Adi is like beyond boundaries. Mata is measurement, adi beyond. So immeasurable. Enthusiasm, that's the chanda, the wish. They should apply intense enthusiasm, effort, zeal, vigor, perseverance, mindfulness, and situational awareness, which Bhikkhu Bodhi will call mindfulness and clear comprehension, sati sampajanya. So you bring up all of these qualities and apply them to abandoning these unwholesome qualities. Suppose your clothes or your head were on fire. In order to extinguish it, you'd apply intense enthusiasm, effort, zeal, vigor, perseverance, mindfulness, and situational awareness. In the same way, in order to give up those bad, unskillful qualities, that mendicant should apply intense enthusiasm, and so on. But suppose that upon checking, a mendicant knows that there are no such bad, unskillful qualities. Then that mendicant should meditate with rapture and joy, training by day and night in skillful qualities. Or else, as the night passes by and the day draws close, a mendicant reflects, I might die of many causes. A snake might bite me, a scorpion, centipede might sting me, and if I died from that, it would be an obstacle to my progress, and so on. I might stumble off a cliff, and so on. If I died from that, it would be an obstacle to my progress. And again, they reflect. So before sleeping, they reflect. When waking again in the morning, they reflect. Are there any bad, unskillful qualities that I haven't given up, which might be an obstacle to my progress? And then it's repeating the same thing. In order to give them up, they apply intense enthusiasm, effort, zeal, vigor, perseverance, mindfulness, and clear comprehension. Like as if your clothes were, your head were, either your clothes are on fire or your head is on fire. But if upon checking, you know there are no such bad, unskillful qualities, then that mendicant should meditate with rapture and joy, training by day and night in skillful qualities. Mindfulness of death, when developed and cultivated in just this way, is very fruitful and beneficial. In a certain way, you could say that this sutta is closely related to Cittanupassana in the four foundations of mindfulness, that we learn how to be aware of the state of mind, with greed or the state of mind free from greed, the state of mind with hatred, state of mind free from hatred, and so on. And so this sutta is developing this strong advice. The Buddha is shaking his finger, say, arouse your energy. If you have an unwholesome state of mind, don't just say, there, you'll get better eventually. Instead, you should not tolerate those negative states of mind. You should destroy them as quick as you can. The metaphor of having your clothes on fire or your head on fire, I think is really excellent to show that one needs both intelligence and energy. So if your clothes are on fire and you get very excited and start running around because you're to run away from the fire, then it just makes it worse because you're, fanning the flames and making it worse. But if you know what to do when your clothes are on fire and you wrap yourself up in a blanket or pour some water on yourself or do something like that, do something intelligent. So quickly, with intelligence, knowing the right way to take care of it, you take care of your problems. But with that determination and energy, even though it's so distracting to be in the middle of a fire, it's so distracting to be in the middle of unwholesome states of mind. But in spite of the distraction, you need to remember how to take care of these hindrances, these states, and arouse the energy and take care of it. Again, I welcome your comment or question, whether this is really, do you really believe it? Is this really the way to practice? Okay, do you have a question? So, Samaneri Tavira asks,
so it sounds so straightforward when it's like, okay, cultivate the skillful things and end the unskillful things as quickly as possible. But I feel like in practice, we so often, like, we have reasons for our unskillful things, right? It's like so often it's like this mixture of things where it's like, you know, I understand the state of mind is unskillful, but it's also like, maybe this is protecting something that is genuinely important, or it's, you know, so there might be something behind it that actually is compassionate for ourselves, or like out of love for ourselves, that like, I don't want to tell myself that this thing isn't worth protecting, but I also want to do it in a different way that's not this unskillful state of mind. So I feel like it's not usually so simple as just saying like, this is bad, I'll stop doing it. It's like we need to figure out some other way of taking care of that thing that needs to be cared for. And I don't know, it feels like often we have a certain toolkit of tools that we're used to using. And it's like, how do we say like, okay, I need to take care of this thing. This is the tool that I know and that I'm familiar with. And it's like the only one I have that does this thing. But it's like, how do I like learn to let this go long enough to say, okay, but like there are better tools that exist, and how do I find them?
The question that Samaneri Tavira asks is especially relevant when it comes to our emotional reactions. Sometimes the natural intuitions, our habits, of ways of coping with things that we've developed. And every emotion, even if it's hatred, even if it's anger, even if it's depression, those are coming from something in us that wants to protect our existence. So like if there's a danger or a threat, the anger can come up to ward off the danger in order to protect our existence. So there's two problems with these very habitual and emotional ways of reacting. But I believe it's very useful as a point of kindness to recognize that these emotions or these old habits, at some level, they mean well. Saying, thank you, I know you're trying to help, but it could easily be based on a mistaken understanding of the situation. So that's where it's good to examine our perception of the situation and to see whether it's really true. Is it really accurate? Or even adjust our frame of reference to look at it in a different way. If it's the stock example I always give is that so-and-so is always doing this nasty thing to me. If I have that perception, then that would support anger and resentment. But if I ask, is that really true? And I say, well, that so-and-so is just acting out of their cultural or out of their training. They're just operating according to their habits. or else that person must be feeling very badly. They must be suffering. Then with a different frame of mind, a different frame for the perception, then I can see it in a different way. But then at a more deeper and more fundamental way, a lot of our natural habits are just based on bhava tanha, or the desire, the craving for continued existence. And whatever habits we have that are supporting our continued existence, while we were going round and round in samsara, those are helping us to keep going around. They may help us to get into a good state or a good condition to be born in heaven. But with our new understanding, with our new wisdom, we realize that any mental habit which is perpetuating the craving for existence is an unskillful state. It's just hard for people to realize. We have to be diplomatic when we're speaking to students, like if they want to fight against injustice. And it's hard to say, actually, that's unskillful. Or if, any number of things that are completely normal, completely natural, and kind of unavoidable in human existence. It's like, okay, this is where you're at right now because of causes and conditions, but let it go when you can. Asking the question, is this really true? Asking the question, is this related to the craving for existence, more existence? And experimenting with letting go of that which is related to the craving for more existence. And then it gives room for some different kinds of motivation. We should protect the path. Our own path of practice, our own development, we should protect it. I'm wondering if any of you can report on your own experience with bringing up a stronger energy for your meditation, for your practice. Okay, Richard.
I'm not sure if this is slightly off topic, but when I was a young monk in India, I became very sick, and I think it was amoebic dysentery or something like that. And so eventually my, whatever you want to call it, fellows in the holy life, whatever, they took me to the hospital, because I was so ill. And so I got to the hospital. These were kind of primitive type of hospitals over there. And they put me on a gurney and they wheeled me in. And the doctors and the nurses, started, checking me over. And as that was happening, I heard a high-pitched whining sound in my ears until the point where I couldn't hear anything anymore. And my eyes, vision withdrew back as if I was looking through tunnels into my head. And I could see the blood rushing across the capillaries in my eyes and it looked like thousands of snakes, like a pile of thousands of writhing snakes, but I knew it was my blood across the capillaries in my eyes. And I thought to myself, oh, I'm dying now. And as I experienced that, that particular religion that I was in had a God. So I thought to the God, I said, the idea of the God that, if you let me live, because I thought that God was all powerful and keep you alive, right? I'll do everything in my ability to become enlightened in this lifetime. And when I thought that, it was like an immense amount of energy came through my body, and I was able to stand up and get off the gurney, and the doctors and the nurses were trying to pull me back. No, where are you going? And walk out of the hospital. And so I don't know if you would consider that off topic, but I could barely get into the hospital when my friends were kind of like helping, you might say, hold me up and carry me there until they put me on the gurney, right? So I don't think it was any magic or anything from a God. I think somehow that deep thought in my mind caused a tremendous amount of adrenaline or something, right, to flush into my body that revigorated me and gave me strength. And somehow it also had the effect of suppressing the illness or something, But so anyway, so when I read this kind of stuff in the suttas, like your hair was on fire or something, well, it's kind of like that, because I was completely convinced in my mind that, oh, I'm dying now,
Yeah.
And somehow it caused this thing in me to see the importance of being completely liberated in this life. Anyways, I don't know if it's off topic, but it's an experience I had.
That's very relevant. And to me, if I was to reinterpret your story, it's as if we've got so much energy tied up in continuing our existence. And when we give up, when we're on the point of death and we give up and we're not going to exert anymore for existence, and then the only desire left is for awakening, then because the energy is not divided anymore, because it's all going towards awakening, then that's how it seems to be, like a burst of energy. When a person is undecided, like between two things, they're kind of like trapped in the middle. They can't go either way. So if we've got some energy pulling us towards continued existence and a different energy pulling us towards nibbana, but we don't really decide which one we're choosing, then we're sort of like not able to release the energy. That's just an interpretation. I'll invite Sharon to give a comment.
So, Ayya, just to understand what you said that when it comes to certain conditions involving injustice, that a lot of unwholesome qualities can come up, and that once we see those unwholesome qualities, that it would be wise to let go. And I think you said that a lot of those unwholesome qualities come from a deep desire for continued existence. So is that right so far?
That's what I said.
Okay. So I'm thinking of very specific conditions that happen most frequently. Like, for example, losing your share of the wealth in a divorce or in inheritance, of your parents' wealth. And I can see, so in very specific situations like that, and of course, wealth is tied to our well-being and quality of life, and whether we can afford healthcare, all of those things, right? So in very specific conditions like that, are you still recommending to let go and kind of not tap into the desire for things that legally should be yours?
Yes. There is a way in which, in a circumstance, for example, of injustice, if someone is motivated by fear or desire or anger, that those things, those are like unwholesome factors. It's possible one who is awakened, who's really gone beyond fear, gone beyond selfish desire, that person is still able to like speak truth to power in a completely different way. So they can be relevant to have a voice in terms of a situation of injustice, but it's not the same kind of voice because it's not coming from this fear or anger with respect to our personal existence. And it's very difficult to do in a moment. But even like in the example you gave of being cheated out of your inheritance, it's like the outcome of what actually happens is a brute fact that after it's finished, it's turned out one way or it's turned out another way. And whichever way it's turned out, you have to come to peace with that. I said the same thing about like climate change and global warming and the way that the humans have destroyed this entire earth and destroyed the possibilities for the future generations of humans and the future of all of the animals and beings in the world. We said, well, either somehow we're going to pull out of it and this crisis will be resolved and life will go on, or else we won't pull out of it and life will be destroyed. And I personally have inner peace with those possibilities, each of which is really terrible in its own way. And then do the right thing. Then say what is true. But with being deeply, deeply, profoundly at peace with the circumstance that we have. Ananaya.
Along the being cheated out of your inheritance, this is not something that happened to me, but I have a friend who that is what happened. And while she got a portion of her father's estate, it was like just a pittance compared to the stepchildren who actually got the bulk of his monies. Now, this happened probably 25 years ago at least. And she's really never let it go completely. And it's had a very corrosive effect on her. So when you have those circumstances, it really is very, very important to do whatever you can to really let it go, because it just does not augur well for your future to hold on to any piece of that. It's really quite destructive. I think she would be a happier, more well-rounded person. I mean, it just really is, it's a sad thing to see, actually. So hard to do, but worth the effort.
This conversation is pointing out how profoundly challenging it is to cultivate the four right efforts. Cultivating it in terms of our meditation practice, or in terms of our attitude towards the like deep questions about existence, or the deep question about desire, the deep question about dukkha and the cause of dukkha. That's one level, which is also deeply, deeply challenging to really accomplish and to come to success. And then the applied wisdom in facing up to different real circumstances that come along in our everyday life is equally challenging, really difficult, and very often opposite to what would be the natural reaction, and sometimes in a way opposite to what either common sense or what most people think is the right way to react. So a person who is awakened, a person who's entered the stream, a person who's gotten any kind of noble attainments is really a different kind of person than an ordinary person who's just protecting their existence, protecting their safety, protecting their happiness. Whenever we come to recognize that the way we see our circumstance or the way we're holding onto our circumstance is not helping us to make progress, then we got to do this very deep examination to see if there's something there that we're clinging to, something selfish that we're holding on to. And if we can find what that is, it's very difficult. Say, I've got this deep, deep, deep selfish thing. And, deep within me, it's like, this is relating to my safety. But really, it is something that if we could be able to let go of that clinging, then we can realize a completely different kind of psychology, a completely different state of mind, that it unlocks the possibilities for progress in wisdom, progress in freedom. Last call for questions or comments. Okay.
It seems like a sense of aggressive resolve can often be something that I turn to when dealing with something difficult, and particularly with addressing my lazy qualities and despair. And it serves very well to pull me out of those negative qualities, but I do notice a negative aggression to it. And I don't intend to stop cultivating that sense of resolve, but I'm wondering if you have any suggestions for how to bring patience to it so that it's not aggressive.
This is also a wonderful question about how that strong, or you said aggressive, determination feels kind of close to anger. And the thing is that in the body, it might be that something similar is happening in the sense of a release of adrenaline, or a release of some kind of manifestation in the body. When we look at emotions, there's something happening like that. It's a very like sort of general. And then with our mind, we put a different label on it, a different meaning, a different significance. Say, so like this is determination, this is resentment, or this is righteous indignation. But actually, in part, like what's happening in the physical body is the same thing. So when you have aroused that strong determination, it is causing something arising in your body, in your emotional body, which is not very far away from anger. And this is the reason why it can cause a doubt to say, am I being aggressive or angry about this? So partly it's trying to, I guess, reframe or be very clear about the meaning, the significance, or what the intention is. And that the intention is not an intention of anger or harming, but an intention of strength. Then the aspect of patience, I think, has a lot to do with there is that which we are able to control and that which we're not able to control. So things external to us, perhaps we're not able to control. We have to be patient about that. And then things internal to us, we still might be not able to control them because we've not yet trained a mind to that extent to be able to be fully skillful with our own inner psychology. In that way, a human being has got a whole sequence of causes and conditions leading up to this birth, and all of the causes and conditions that happened within this lifetime, all of which have created a strong momentum or tendencies or habits of the mind to react and respond in certain ways. Now that we've learned about the teachings of the Buddha, then there's a different thought coming in, which is going in a different direction. But it takes time to change direction. I compare it to a tugboat pulling an ocean liner. So the ocean liner is not necessarily able to just turn on the dime. It takes a little bit of time to get it to move. So just accepting reality that even some aspects within yourself are because of causes and conditions that have to be accepted. So the one thing that you do have a choice about is what kind of karma do you want to do right now? What type of choice do you want to do right now? And that's the one, that's where the energy, the strong effort can be applied with that kind of, sometimes the Buddha uses the language which is quite aggressive, saying, when unwholesome states of mind arise, we want to cut them down like a palm tree, cut them at the root so they won't come back, and destroy the seed, burn the seed so that it doesn't come back. And so there is this really strong language that we do have the ability, and it can be skillful to make that kind of strong choice. But we've got to be patient with the things we don't control. Yeah. This may be enough for today. We've used up our minutes. I regret that we had so many snafus with the equipment earlier on in this program, but I hope that I was able to help everybody remember these fundamental basic teachings. We can give respects to the Triple Gem. Araham Samma Sambuddho Bhagava Buddham Bhagavantam Abhivademi. Savakato Bhagavata Dhammo Dhammang Namasami. Supatipanno Bhagavato Sangha Sangho Sangham Namami. Okay, thank you everybody for your participation, for your good practice, and for your patience.